24 hours ago, the LSU Tigers, and I'm not kidding when I tell you this is literally 24 hours ago, the LSU Tigers at the moment were leading 18-14 over the previously undefeated Texas A&M Aggies. They went on to lose that game in convincing fashion. The second half was not great. And here, less than 24 hours later, LSU is going to be looking for a new head coach. Fourth-year head coach Brian Kelly has been fired by the Bayou Bengals. They had lost three out of four. And there was some chatter that things were starting to potentially boil over. There was some chatter about people being very frustrated with the direction of the program. And then earlier on Sunday afternoon, Pete Thamel and many others say that they're having legitimate discussions about firing Brian Kelly during the bye week here in week 10. Next time we'll see the Tigers will be on November 8th. That'll be against Alabama. Sounded like a lot of those discussions that were being had behind the scenes were a negotiation between Brian Kelly, his agent, and LSU about his possible buyout. Maybe they could save some money potentially. He's owed $54 million in buyout dollars. This now being LSU and the way things are structured, this decision involved the governor of the state of Louisiana. So this was way on up the food chain, and maybe they came to an agreement for less money. We'll find out more, I'm sure, here at some point. It's a guy that went 34-14 in 4 seasons. He went to the SEC championship game. He won less than 71% of his games, and by LSU standards, that is an unacceptable total. And given the direction of where this season's going, they could finish maybe 7-5 at best, maybe worse than that if things don't get turned around here very quickly. Here's the biggest question here. Not whether or not you think Brian Kelly would have ultimately won big at LSU. Not whether or not Brian Kelly was an adequate fit at LSU. I'm sure several people, regardless of where you feel, and regardless of kind of what side of the aisle you're on with this, Brian Kelly has won everywhere he's ever been. He has proven time and time again, whether it be at lower levels of football, at Central Michigan, at Cincinnati, at Notre Dame, and at LSU, the guy wins a lot of games. He wins football games. Now, I don't think anybody at this point is questioning his acumen as a football coach. The guy's a future Hall of Famer, and we'll probably get in at some point here sooner than later. The one thing missing on his resume was a national championship, and that's why he went to LSU. They paid him a boatload of money to come. He left was a very good situation at Notre Dame, went to LSU, and thinking that it might be a little bit more manageable to attract the players there, given the footprint, given the amount of talent that he has access to in the state of Louisiana. That would be a much easier path to go and get it, because he'd been to the playoffs before with Notre Dame, but when he went against the top dogs, when he played against the best teams in the country, they always seemingly fell short, and the personnel was never quite there. Not alongside the likes of Bama's, not alongside the likes of Clemson's and the teams that were dominating there in the 2010 decade. Here's the biggest question, though. One, who are you going to get? Like, that's always the big question with me. Because if you're going to decide to part ways from Brian Kelly, if you feel as though, hey, you know what, it's just not working the way we want it to work, maybe there's a differing in philosophy between the administration and those that support the program and the way Brian Kelly's currently running it. If there's a disagreement there, then by all means, I understand. Like, hey, I'm not in charge of the LSU program, but if you feel like there's a disagreement there and it can't be fixed, and you feel like you need to move on, so be it. But you have to know for certain the guy that you're replacing Brian Kelly with is an upgrade. And I don't know who that guy is right now. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of job openings right now in college football. At Florida, of course, at Penn State, and a handful of other places that will be coming here very soon. And I got to be honest with you, the candidate pool in college football coaching, there's not a lot of guys right now that are legitimate, guaranteed, no doubt about it, upgrades over Brian Kelly. I think most people would say, Yeah, I would take Brian Kelly as my head coach in a heartbeat over what we currently have. Yeah, I'd take Brian Kelly. I think a lot of fans, regardless of who they cheer for, would probably be like, yeah, Brian Kelly's pretty dang good. Bring him to our place. But wasn't working at LSU, clearly. The offense had gotten really stagnant this year. The personnel on offense is still pretty good, and yet they couldn't manufacture enough points. The defense, they tried multiple coordinators. Things did not go well in his first 2 years on that side of the ball. Looked like things had turned the corner this year after pretty significant improvement in year one from Blake Baker to year two, and then against Ole Miss, and then against Vanderbilt, and then against, of course, this past weekend against A&M. Things started to fall off, and some of the same things that got him over the last couple of years got him again. So I'm not saying that this is the wrong move. I'm not saying I disagree with the move. I'm not saying that this is a move that didn't need to be made at some point. But now it feels premature. It feels early. Unless, without question, they have some type of inside information at LSU, and the administration has inside information at LSU that, hey, we have a big fish on the line and he wants to be the coach at LSU, then this to me is a move that does feel like it's been a bit rushed. I understand that LSU hasn't looked great in these last 4 games. I get that. I understand that really LSU, since the Clemson game, hasn't looked great overall. They didn't look great against Louisiana Tech. They didn't look great against Florida, especially on offense. They did turn them over 5 times. They didn't look great against Ole Miss. They didn't look great against Vanderbilt, and they certainly didn't look great this past weekend against Texas A&M in the final 2 quarters of that game. But is it really bad enough to warrant firing the guy right now? I'm not saying it's wrong. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying it's wrong. It just feels like, man, that was fast. It feels like it was really, really fast, especially knowing some of the challenges that he inherited when he first took over the program. This is a guy that, like I said, had a Heisman Trophy winner play under his leadership, went to an SEC championship game, beat Alabama, did a lot of things that were very, very important to the powers that be in Baton Rouge, and it wasn't enough. And I get it. LSU, they want to win championships. They want to make playoffs. They want to play at the highest levels of the sport, and maybe they weren't going to get there under Brian Kelly. If that's what you've determined, by all means, who are you going to go get now? That's the big question, because you just fired a guy that's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame and will probably be in the Hall of Fame very soon. So unless you are going to be replacing him with a possible Hall of Famer as well, I don't know where this coaching search is going to lead. So shocking to me. If you want my honest opinion, this one surprises me. It's the first one this cycle that I feel is a massive surprise. I get it. You want to make sure that you want the trajectory of the program to be on an upward pointing arrow. I understand all of that, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe this was supposed to be the year, and they've fallen short. But there's got to be more going on here. They must know that somebody is really interested. And maybe they feel like, you know what? We could be viewing this situation as kind of the way Georgia did at the end of the 2015 season, where you had a good situation. You had a good coach. Mark Richt at Georgia was a really good coach. And then Kirby Smart was the guy that was going to take a job at another school in the league. And because of the pursuit by another school, Georgia felt like, yeah, you know what? We got to do it now. We got to do it now. We have to get rid of Mark Richt. We got to go get Kirby Smart because he's the guy that we think can get us over the top. So they made a difficult decision and ended up working out really well for them. Maybe that's what LSU is doing as well. Maybe they have an eye on a guy that they absolutely have to go get him now because he's the missing link moving forward. I don't know who that is, and I don't know what the circumstances are behind the scenes at LSU, but this one is a huge surprise. So unless they are for sure getting a massive upgrade, it does feel pretty premature, and we won't know who that upgrade is going to be for at least a couple more weeks, maybe even a couple more months. So wild turn of events here. LSU's Brian Kelly has been shown the door after losing 3 of his final 4 games as the head coach of the LSU Tigers. That'll do it for us here at an emergency podcast edition of Always College Football. You can always check us out on the ESPN College Football YouTube page. We will do these probably, just knowing how things have gone up to this point, we will probably be doing these every week now, given how crazy this coaching carousel has already gotten and how crazily it's likely going to get here in the next few weeks. So check us out. We will do more of these here in the weeks to come. But man, a shocker down in Baton Rouge.